Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. We're back in pentatonic land for today's video. Basically I'm going to show you three little hacks, as I believe the young people say. Three little useful things that you can do with a pentatonic scale that you may not already have been aware of. We're going to begin by looking at how you can use said pentatonic scale to create some interesting and catchy riffs. Take a listen to this chord sequence, for example. I mean, it's not bad for what it is, I suppose, but it's a bit featureless. I bet you've already kind of forgotten how it sounds, and we need to do something about that. We need to make it sound more memorable and give it a bit of a signature, a bit of a hook, if you like. And the pentatonic scale is a brilliant resource for doing exactly that. Here's some information. Okay, then that chord sequence is in G minor. That's the tonality of it, so it seems obvious to start looking for options within the G minor pentatonic, which is a scale that you could play over the whole thing. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the G minor pentatonic, which consists of the notes G, B flat, C, D and F, and we're going to make some chords out of those, some power chords basically. So if I take the G and the D note, I get a G5 power chord. If I take the B flat and F notes, I get a B flat 5 power chord. If I take the C note and the G note, I get a C5 power chord. And if I take the F note and the C note, I get an F5 power chord. And I can play those power chords in various different inversions and incarnations around the neck. Like, for instance, I could play these two open strings, third and fourth strings. That gives me a G5 power chord. At the third fret, that gives me a B flat 5 power chord. At the fifth fret, there's a C power chord. Excuse me. I can also take this little shape here. That gives me an F5 power chord. Move it up 2 frets, I've now got a G5 power chord. Moving on to the second and third strings, I've got an F5 power chord there, which I can move up to be a G5 power chord there. And I can put all of those together, or some of them together, and create some interesting little power chord based riffs that might sound a bit like this. So if you're thinking, well, that sounds a bit familiar, then you're probably right, because it's a technique that has been used on countless songs, generating some power chords from the pentatonic scale and creating riffs from those power chords. You've heard it on Smoke on the Water, which, okay, that has a tiny little passing chord in there as well, but you've also heard it on Fool for Your Lovin' by Whitesnake. You've also heard it on Money for Nothing by Dire Straits. I'm kind of referencing songs that I'm familiar with here, as you understand, but, you know, plenty of songs use this technique to create an interesting, catchy, hooky riff, and you can too. Now, okay, let's move on to another use for the pentatonic scale, more in the kind of usual way of things, using it as a way of playing lead guitar parts. Now, we all know we can use the pentatonic as a major type scale or as a minor type scale, and you can kind of play around with it as a blues scale as well. But there is another way that you can use it, as a way of kind of suggesting a chord substitution. Here's some information on that. Okay then, the middle section of the tune is in E flat. That's very much the tonality that's going on here. So it would seem fairly obvious to use the E flat major pentatonic. But as you can hear, that has quite a sort of a country kind of flavour to it, or, you know, maybe a pop kind of sensibility to it, and I want something that's a little bit more interesting than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of the E flat tonality that's happening in the middle section of the tune as being an E flat major 7th. Already that's more interesting to listen to, and you can see, if you look closely, that that E flat major 7th chord is nothing more than a G minor chord with an E flat bass note. So if I want to suggest that E flat major 7th kind of character, that that overall kind of slightly more sophisticated tonality, then over E flat, rather than using the E flat major pentatonic, I'm going to use the G minor pentatonic. What I'm effectively doing is playing to that G minor chord that's lurking within an E flat major 7th. And it gives a slightly more interesting, slightly less cheesy, dare I say it, tonality to a solo than you would get if you just played the regular E flat major pentatonic. Might sound a bit like this. So you can hear that that does kind of round off that slightly cheesy pop sensibility that the normal major pentatonic would give you. It just makes it sound a little bit more interesting, perhaps. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to finish off today with the third of these little techniques that you can use, which is a way of using the pentatonic scale to create very easy but effective guitar harmony parts. Here's what I'm talking about. Okay. Harmony guitar parts. Now, as you know, as you've seen in plenty of videos that I've done and elsewhere on the internet, no doubt, the pentatonic scale is arranged into 5 different patterns. There's pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're back to pattern 1 again. And if you don't know those patterns, then may I suggest that you remedy that. Okay, what I can do is any lick that I might play in pattern 1, for example, but this works out of any pattern. If I just take a lick like that, all I've got to do to harmonise that beautifully, really, is to go to the next but one pattern. So there's pattern 1, pattern 2 would be there, and then I go up to pattern 3, which is here. And any lick that I play in pattern 1, if I then mirror those moves in pattern 3, it will harmonise perfectly. You have to respect the structure of the scale. For instance, if I was to do something involving this 2 fret bend here, like that, in pattern 3, which would be up here, like this, that then becomes a 3 fret bend up there. So, you know, you have to kind of take that sort of thing into account, but essentially all you're doing is mirroring the moves that you do in pattern 1 with pattern 3, or if you're in pattern 2, you kind of do the harmony part in pattern 4. If you're in pattern 3, you do the harmony part in pattern 5, and so on and so on. And if you fool around like that, you could end up with something that sounds like this. So there you go. There are 3 easy little pentatonic tricks, hacks, call them what you want, just for getting a little bit more mileage out of the scale and, you know, making your music sound a bit cooler. who's not going to love that? Here's what it all sounds like when you put it all together into the entire tune that I recorded for this video. So there you go. I think that works reasonably well. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful, informative, and maybe even a little bit inspiring. If that's the case, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and give me a like while you're at it as well. And before I go, I'll just mention that I have some courses on sale at the moment. Making the modes easy, everything you need to know to play great sounding mode-based lead guitar. You will understand things like Ionian, Mixolydian, Dorian, and all the rest of those confusing words that you've probably read in guitar magazines but never quite got your head around. You get loads of plain English explanations, you get licks to learn, you get jam tracks to play along with, everything you need basically. But if that's a little bit too rich for your palate and you're looking for more of a kind of entree into the world of playing lead guitar, then check out the other course that's available at the moment. It's called Play Lead Guitar the Easy Way, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. Once again, plain English explanations, absolute minimum of jargon and boring, dull theory and scale practice. The focus is on getting you playing solos and licks. And once again, you get loads of licks tabbed out and jam tracks and stuff to keep yourself rather busy with. So check them out. They're available from this URL here, which will take you to my website, which then takes you onto the Udemy tuition platform. These courses are massively discounted at the moment. I'm not sure how long that's going to be the case, because that's in the control of Udemy. They decide upon the discounting policy, so grab a bargain while they're still there, why don't you? Or if you prefer some tailored one-to-one guitar tuition, you can get in touch with me via the details at the end of this video. If you live on Teesside in the northeast of England, you can come along for a face-to-face lesson, or wherever else you are in the world, you can have a lesson via Skype, and whichever way you do it, your first lesson is of course free, as I'm sure you know by now if you've seen any of these videos before. So you've got nothing to lose, you might as well give it a go. And with that, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time around. Bye for now, folks.